They come to us without a word. They notice the differences after a few months. Something had changed, not only themselves, but also the world around them was different. The wind swept briskly beneath the door cracks, and time, days, weeks, months, had become denser. Sometimes the silence in the apartment was unbearable. It was like a vacuum they lived in, but also outside, among people on lively shopping streets, they found no escape. It was as if the others looked right through them. They wanted to get noticed, to shout at them, but they could not make a sound. Both felt the same way, but they did not tell each other about it. Their feelings weren't within their reach, and they just couldn't articulate it quite right. They could only feel the strange silence. Some door had opened. Thoughts that do not go away and cannot be thought away anymore. Something had changed forever. It came slowly, soft-footed. In the beginning, there were occasional thoughts which could easily be discarded, but then they settled and showed up starting from early morning, just after waking up, and the more one wants to banish them, the stronger they get. They always go away just for a short time, maybe while one is reading a book or looking through the window. But then they suddenly come to the surface without prior warning. We are hunted. There is only one short rest, then it goes to the next round. They heard noises under their beds. They could see them from the corner of their eyes, but if they looked directly there was nothing to see. They couldn't decide what was the better thing to do. Ignore them and try not to listen, or to approach them, speak to them. We are haunted. The rooms are haunted. They began to keep watch during the night. Inside they knew that it would not help, but they had the feeling that someone had to stay awake at all times, maybe out of fear, maybe to merely create the appearance of control. The night stayed quiet, and after some time they nearly thought it was all just in their imagination, until one night. There was a strange glow under the bed. She shouted, but no one answered. Slowly, unwillingly, she slipped to the edge of the bed and tried to look under it. Why don't you believe me? I can't do it anymore. I'm not human. Stop. Please. I lead a double life. I saw him lying underneath with a pocket flashlight in his hand. In the night while I was sleeping, with his back turned to me, his torch blinds me. In the night I am dazzling. Someone else. I saw his back. He talks to someone else. I pulled myself up again. Who was he talking to? Breathe. Be quiet. Took a hot bath, so hot that it was just bearable. Dove in. With her head, wanted to forget everything just to sink into the foam. Time went by, and as I came out of the water, all sorrows, and felt light and unburdened, until gaze wandered to the ceiling. Seemed to be farther away than normal. The paint, which had spread all over the wall, left the tub and wrapped a fresh towel around. Went through the apartment on wet feet. The water from hair trickled onto the wooden floor. In the doorframe was a notch which had never been seen before, as well as another hole in the wall behind the desk. Couldn't understand how they could overlook this the whole time. One time they sat side by side on the couch watching TV. Both had been very quiet the whole day. They watched in silence while eating the warmed up meal from yesterday. Sometimes one forgets the others are real human beings, have their own thoughts and a whole world inside themselves. Sometimes one has to remember that so as not to forget it. I got goosebumps, then turned back to the TV and resumed eating and did not talk anymore. On that day, and it was the last, she had a bad feeling in her stomach. Her contact lenses itched in her eyes and her sight was blurred. It was as if they were in the wrong eyes. For a short moment she had to think about where her left was and where her right was. After she remembered, she raised her dominant arm. She felt stupid, but shook her head and proceeded walking in a faster pace. As long as she behaved normally, everything would be normal as well. While she continued walking, she noticed she'd become lost. That was strange, because she always took this route. Despite that, the street and the area was unfamiliar. She had also started to sweat and then to shiver because of the cold. And then she was hit with full force. She couldn't see the faces of the people on the street anymore. They had become indistinct and blurred, indefinable grey lumps. She felt ill, dizzy. She had to hold onto the railing so as not to fall down, but then she flinched because she couldn't recognise the railing anymore. She knew it was there. She knew it was dark and green, but she couldn't see it. There were just parallel rods, but they didn't serve a purpose. They were made by nobody. Made no sense. As she looked up, there were no houses anymore. The houses were not houses. She could glance through and could only see the pieces, the atoms, but not the house as a whole anymore. The house was just there, an amorphous figure. Also, the rest of the city consisted of atoms. Sometimes she stumbled upon them or bumped against them, but she didn't know what it was or had been, and she made her way forwards, struggled through the entanglement of absurd quarks. She didn't want to look at herself. She was scared that she was a purposeless being herself. An unspeakable horror crept over her. Her senses were numb, or maybe she could now see much more than before. But maybe she wasn't, and had never been, and had only disguised herself amongst all the other signs. At one time, everything went the wrong direction, but we didn't know whether we could have changed something. Maybe there had been places we shouldn't have been to, people we shouldn't have talked to, thoughts we shouldn't have thought. But it was too late for a long time now, and the events had grown their own consciousness and didn't want to return to their old places. The end. It is never the end. Guys, thank you very much for watching this midweek one-shot. This has been a ghost story. I hope you enjoyed it. Lots to digest here, lots to understand, lots to dig deep into. I hope you've enjoyed listening to the story. This has been Aaron from the Brothers Grimm, and I will see you all on the next one.